a Canadian Entertainment Podcast. It's a Canadian Entertainment Podcast. It's a Canadian Entertainment Podcast. It's the Canadian Entertainment Podcast, hosted by Ben Stagger.
Canadian Entertainment Podcast family, we are back. Yes, we are still on our semi-reduced, schedule right now, but we are back in an extremely massive way. Some would say it is the end of May, and it doesn't get much better than the end of May, right? You know, in the Canadian entertainment world, we're just getting over the spring blues, and we are moving into the summer season, where a big part of the Canadian entertainment apparatus starts to do its thing, and we are talking about rib fests. We are talking about live outdoor blues festivals. We are talking about even live outdoor Canadian jazz festivals with a focus on Canadian entertainment jazz. And I know, a lot of people have asked me to cover Kitchener Blues Fest. A lot of people have asked me to cover Kitchener Ontario Rib Fest, and they want, and it's in the works. It's in the works. But, that's one thing that often gets left out of the conversation of Canadian entertainment. We sometimes forget that the makers of ribs at these rib fests, I'm sure it's not just Southern Ontario. I'm sure it's all around the world we call Canada. I'm sure those are Canadian entertainers too, because they're entertaining us with their food and their taste. So if you are someone who works in the service industry, has a knack for cooking, you live in Canada, you are a Canadian entertainer too, this podcast is for you. Every time you go out to Swiss Chalet, for international viewers, that is one of the most important institutions in Canada. If you're American, to put it in your terms, that's like Congress to us. That is one of the biggest, it's all across the nation, maybe just made its way into BC. Like, it's slowly growing, but it's, in many ways, it's a political movement. The Swiss Chalet, a lot of our businesses get done. A lot of business gets done and conducted in Swiss Chalets. You see, the thing is, it's not, as Canadians, sometimes we like to pretend we're other things, right? So Swiss Chalet is this amazing little restaurant that is, yes, it's very important. It's a cultural institution, as I said, but it's not from Switzerland. I don't know many countries because my pure focus in life is mainly Canadian entertainment. So forgive me, Swiss audience members. I would love for you to listen, but I'm sorry for messing that up for a second. But so this is a restaurant not from Switzerland. It is from Canada, and they're all over, and people love them, and so much business gets conducted in these restaurants. And that's the thing, right? We never really have too many like Canadian themed restaurants. I'd say maybe the closest we have is Smokes Poutine, but that is a little Quebec-y. I mean, like, poutine itself, but like I feel like the branding is very Canadian. But a lot of our things sometimes try to pretend, or not pretend, but double as other countries' things. Like New York Fries is another cultural institution, one of the best fry makers in this world. They claim that they have the best poutine in Canada. And if you're an international viewer, demand your leaders get a New York Fries in your uh, in your country. And I'm talking to you, Peru. Peru, I'm talking to you. Peru. You got to get a New York fries location there. It's like McDonald's, but we don't focus on the hamburgers. We focus strictly on the fries and fry creations. You could even get a butter chicken poutine there. And I don't know if some people might have never had poutine. Well, I'd say the best way to try it is come to Canada or whatever, go to New York Fries and order the butter chicken poutine. You will be like, I get poutine now, right? So, Canada is full of innovation, but for our restaurants, sometimes we pretend to be other things. And I don't know what that says about us, but it's a form of our entertainment, It's cool. It's very cool. We have Eastside Mario's, which doubles down as a New York Italian sort of restaurant, and it has the Statue of Liberty and all that crap. And I think she has a tomato near her and stuff, and it is one of our cultural institutions. A lot of business gets done there. I don't know if in those buildings, if like technically you are, like, I don't know if it's like an embassy thing, like you are technically in New York City. I will have to get some of my guys who work behind the scenes to get this podcast done to look into that for me. But if I ever figure that out, I will let you know. But they also are very inclusive to the Canadian celiacs of the society, who include, yes, this person speaking into the microphone right now, into your ears. Yes, I have Canadian celiac. It is different than other celiac versions across the world because the actual pronouncing, I just pronounce it the way I pronounce it to how most people around the universal. It's a universal word. A lot of babies' first words around the world is celiac, but Canadian celiac is a little different, and the differences lie mainly in the pronunciation because, of course, celiac in Canada is say, lay, ache. Like for every A, you throw what A sounds like, or for every E and A, you throw what the Canadian term A. Say, lay, ack. And it kind of sounds Australian, but that's the thing with Canada. Like, oftentimes, with these restaurants where, some things come across. I don't know what that says about Canada, but I'm just throwing that information out there for you. This is just the facts, and I'm delighted to present the facts to you. So thank you very much. That was our little monologue. We've been working on that, workshopping that for the past 20 days or so. I know we're on a 20-day schedule, reduced schedule due to life events, and the life events continue to go on, and I thank you so much again for coming out to this. I hope that this 20-day schedule hasn't turned you off the podcast. I hope it's something that you look forward to. Hopefully one day we'll get back to our regular schedule of programming, but there's only so many hours in a day. I've been talking to Mark Carney, the new Canadian Prime Minister. I said, give us a couple more hours in a day so I could get this podcast on a more regular schedule. I said, give us 26. If we have 26, I will be able to put this out more weekly again. Give me a 26th hour. Give us an extra 2. And he hasn't gone back to me yet, but I am confident that he will get back to me in a record-breaking amount of time when he does. It's just, you got to have hope like that, because if you don't have hope, you got nope. And I haven't seen that movie yet, because I try to only watch Canadian. No, I don't actually. I watch every type of movie, but every type of movie traces back to Canada. For example, let's just throw out one. You're probably thinking to yourself, oh yeah, you're probably thinking to yourself, Gangs of New York. No way that movie is related to Canada at all. And I'd tell you, well, yes, it does, because a couple weeks ago, I drove down to New York State to visit a friend of mine, and I half the time I thought I was in Ontario. So honestly, that's more that's more Ontario, Canada than you could think of it. So if you when I watch Gangs in New York, I'm just like, well, this is just Ontario, right? This is, it's essentially Ontario. It looks like Ontario there. So, yeah, there you go. Everything's a little Canadian, right? You just have to wake up, right? And just really see what's going on. But I've been busting my ass, I like to, I'd like to throw out what's going on. And of course, we talked about the restaurants off the top, what's going on in Canadian entertainment. And then I like to throw it back to personal experiences as a Canadian entertainer. And, me and two of my buddies, Joel Edmiston, oh, if he listens to it, he hates how I pronounce his last name. We've been friends for, sometimes I put an N. Okay, so it's Joel Edmiston, and sometimes I put Mintston. I'm so sorry, man. But anyways, Minston. There's no N before the S. It's Edmiston. Anyways, cut this out. Editor, cut this out. Anyways, so I've been on a Ontario, a Southern Ontario, focusing on the Southern Ontario Peninsula right now. Southern Ontario tour with Joel Edmiston and Noah Maloney is called the Songs, Jokes, and Ideas Tour. And, that pretty much encapsulates what I like to do in entertainment. I, of course, like to make a joke here or there. I like to spread my ideas, and I like to sing a song. So I like that we made it broad. To anyone who's come out to the shows, thank you very much for enjoying and seeing what this could be live, Not the podcast, but seeing what I like to entertain ultimately. So seeing and I know I've talked before on how sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. So why can't you do it all? So you can do it all in the Songs, Jokes, and Ideas tour. So we've been traveling all across Ontario. We've been traveling to Guelph. We've been traveling to Kitchener. We've been traveling to London, Ontario, Woodstock, Ontario. Oh, it just gets confusing at some points to even think about where we've been. We went to Hamilton, for God's sakes. Like, we've been really all over the freaking map, and we have one show left. Just take a break. Just take a pit stop right now. But we have one show left on it's the last Friday in May. So whatever I don't want to get my phone out. That is very rude to do while podcasting. So we have one show left next Friday, and it's going to be a bit of a recording. It's in Toronto. The ticket link will tell you exactly where it is. It's somewhere in a kind of secret location, but it's real. Ticket Peak. Check it out, and we will be doing our final show, the Songs, Jokes, and Ideas tour in Toronto. We will be recording it videoly and audioly. So, and hopefully we'll be out on the road again, later on. I know I've had requests to come to BC. Thank you for the people who have asked me to come to British Columbia. I've never been there before, and maybe it's fear of leaving Ontario. No, I do want to get there, and I, for God's sake, hope that my Plymouth Breeze can make it there. I will figure out a way to get there, and I hope I could do a couple shows. If you message this podcast and let us know where you think you would love to see me perform in BC, and how many people you think you could bring out with you, and then we'll add the numbers together and we'll try to figure it out. I hope sometime in the future, because I'd love to get my ass out to the West End of Ontario. I'd love to get out to the Wild West and just see what all the BC hype is about. I've heard about the weed there. I've heard about the mountains. I have heard about the Bears, and I've heard about those Vancouver Canucks who they really just are such an interesting team. They have a whale as a logo. When have you ever seen a hockey team ever put a whale on their logo besides perhaps the Hartford Whalers? But did they kick the Hartford Whalers out of the NHL because they're like, is a whaler someone who's trying to kill a whale? Y'all are going too far with that imagery. Don't try to kill the Vancouver Canucks. Y'all are beep. And we think that you cannot do that, and we're moving your ass to wherever the heck we moved you. Arizona, perhaps, Coyotes. Yeah. Where my Arizona listeners at, y'all, you're essentially part of Canada too, because you guys got NHL team. If you have an NHL team, I'm sorry, but your state is Canadian, your city is Canadian, right? It's just, come on. Hockey is a huge entertaining thing. We love the entertainment it provides to people, and lots of people are sad that the Toronto Maple Leafs are out, but we still have another team in there from Canada. They are called the Edmonton Oilers. They used to be part of a different league a couple of years back, the Western Hockey League, the WHL. So they're just a little team just starting up, trying to prove themselves in the scene, and it is amazing how far they got and they're getting. So we just got to root for them. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you are. You got to root for this team, and we are working on getting the Kitchener Rangers and Guelph Storm OH. We're trying to. I've been talking with a lot of people, and we want to get the OHL combined with the NHL. Well, we want to absorb the NHL, the National Hockey League, and just make it one big Ontario Hockey League. This is just with ideas, my Ontario expansion project. I really want to expand this province to wherever there's a hockey league, hockey team, whether it's America, Canada. I really want to expand this province and see what happens. So yeah, that's just big picture ideas, but we'll see what goes on. I'm just working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Every once in a while, it's weird in pursuing any form of entertainment and pursuing it. Some people take the more, behind the scenes agent sort of stuff, discovered, which is fine. And some people take the social media route, and I guess that's been my calling years ago. I just got rejected a few times, and I feel like ultimately maybe I wasn't ready when I was applying to places. I think I'm more ready now. It's easy. I look back at old videos or old times I tried acting, and I do cringe a bit. Yeah, I can say that if I want, but it's good to see some improvement. But I've been taking the social media route a little bit. The thing with the social media route is, as everyone's doing social media in some degree. You never know what is going to resonate with people and what is not. And, I feel like I've had a couple different lives on social media in terms of sending videos out into the world. I feel like I got discovered initially by a more globally in Canada audience and global altogether. A couple of years back, I was doing some videos when I was working at the Horseshoe Valley Resort while the whole 2019 to 2023 thing was going on. I was working at this resort when it was kind of closed down, and it was, I felt similar in many ways to the man from The Shining, the character that I believe is called Jack or Johnny. I don't really know, because I was focusing on my own shit at the time. I was like, well, yes, I see myself into him, but I can only memorize one name at a time, and I guess I'll take my own. So I took my name, and I really felt like I was living in The Shining. So I made some videos back in the day about that, and they did well. It got me my first few followers on TikTok. And then that job ended, and I transitioned more into a hair gel sort of haircut and hair gel sort of focused account. I had a lot of videos where I was just showing I really was enjoying hair gel. I went to a barber and got like a 10:30 p.m. haircut. I really wanted to get into hair gel. I was in a different time in my life. I was honestly modeling my haircut. Like I wanted it to look a little like Mark Hoppus from Blink-182. And like maybe in his earlier career before it got really spiky. And so I did, and I hair gel, and that resonated with some people. And then after that, I really started to focus on my roots, whereas from Kitchener-Waterloo, formative years spent in Kitchener-Waterloo, and then a lot of people resonated with that from Kitchener-Waterloo in Southern Ontario. And then I branched out a bit, even though Cambridge is part of Kitchener-Waterloo, and I really started to talk about the Cambridge en route and en routes altogether. And lots of people resonated with that. And then for a while, I felt not, it all doesn't matter at all. It all doesn't matter at all. But I was like, oh, I don't know what people want. I don't know what I want. Like, you want to make something when you're natural, passionate. How much can you talk about one thing? What am I? How much legs does this have? Am I a washed up freaking spawn of Canadian goo? Mushy garbage? Am I a spawn of Canadian goose mushy garbage that I don't know, but you can't help yourself by thinking those things. And social media is like a slot machine, some say. And sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's not. Then recently I've started making videos in Ontario where I have literally been, I just driving somewhere and I see something that really stands out to me that looks literally beautiful or different than I encountered, and I make a video there with passion, right? With passion. Like some people say, oh, satire. I'm like, well, I've made a video at a Dairy Queen I thought looked fabulous. At a Domino's pizza that looked like it should be in a Tim Hortons that looked like it should be in a Domino's pizza, a Canadian Tire convenience store recently, a Dollarama in Aurelia that really blew my mind, and at the first Coffee Time location. Coffee Time is essentially, for international viewers, similar to Tim Hortons' cousin or something like that. So some people have been, asking the age-old satire question, which I don't know what I'm satirizing, but I see some places, I seek them out, and I make a passionate video in front of them of what I'm feeling. And yeah, I throw in a couple of humorous things there, for sure. But these are things that I see, and I'm like, I want to talk about this for a second. Like, I know maybe talking about videos is really annoying to people but this is a Canadian. Search up this Dairy Queen video on my TikTok or Instagram or whatever, but I saw a very beautiful Dairy Queen in Port Over, Ontario that was literally immaculate. It had a beautiful stone facade, a drive-through, which I don't know if I've ever seen. I'm sorry if I'm just a country kid who hasn't seen a couple things, right? So I'm sorry, but yeah, I want to make a passionate video from there. But a video that has kind of popped off is I just want to come clean about this because, just in case if anyone's watching or listening. So I was outside of I drove past a Dollarama in Aurelia. And I'd never seen a Dollarama taking up so much space. It had its own parking lot to itself. A Dollarama, for the international viewers, we're talking Dollar Tree, Dollar General kind of. But Dollarama kind of has a monopoly on the Canadian dollar store industry, but they're now selling things for around $10 as well. But they're doing their thing and they're going hard. We have a lot of monopolies in this country, and they're kind of one of them. Please don't assassinate me, Dollarama. When I say that, it's kind of true. You have to agree. It's a little bit true. But anyways, I passed by this Dollarama in Aurelia, and I think it's one of those things you really need to see to believe. But It takes up so much space. It has its own massive parking lot. It has so much land behind it. A big ass sign pointing to the skies that is so much higher than you have ever seen of a Dollarama marquee sign in your life. And it has a rather sizable Dollarama. So I do say in that video, that's the world's biggest Dollarama. Maybe not the biggest store, but when we're talking land mass, when we're talking a single structure Dollarama building and the land mass of that parking lot and, you know, the greenery in and behind, it's up there, okay? Please check that out to seriously confirm it. I think it's one of those things that maybe the camera doesn't get across how big the land mass is, but it is wider than the eye can see. It is so massive. It takes up so, like, you are there and there's no peripheral vision at that point. You're just all Dollarama. It takes up so much. It does so much work on your eyes. Your eyes are just working overtime, just trying to see the whole thing, trying to see the whole plot of land. Really, they're working overtime. You're burning calories by how much you're looking. You're just looking. So I suggest anyone in this world, there is an airport in Orillia, Ontario, home of Gordon Lightfoot, okay? I imagine he went there many of times, right? And shook his ass in the parking lot and sang a tune, I'm sure. It's big enough for events. God, if we ever remarry or renew vows, I am married. I'm in a Canadian marriage right now. If we ever renew our vows or decide to have a public wedding, people there, I would suggest maybe we do it in this parking lot. It is that big. And you need to see it to believe it. You have never seen a Dollarama with that much land mass, okay? So sorry if I misspoke and said world's biggest Dollarama. I should put asterisks in landmass, single standing, not in its own plaza. You have to see it to believe it. It's shocking. I was shocked. And I'm glad it resonated with people, but, you know, I guess sometimes you just have to, now I know people are going to take your words out of context, or, you know, sometimes people can mistake what you're going to say, and you just got to live with that. But you have to see it to believe it. You know, I'm hearing that there's some bigger ones out there. I have to see it too. Sort of like the Guinness World Book of Records, right? Like, you can't just send them a freaking cell phone video off your freaking whatever and they're not going to accept it because there's AI and stuff now, and the AI Geo 3 by Google is scaring my ass. They are coming for my job. Geo 3 is literally coming for my freaking job of showing Tim Hortons parking lots and Dollarama parking lots and Coffee Time locations. And it's we only have so much time left to share together before it just becomes unsustainable, and there's going to be a freaking whole world, and there's going to be a little guy just like me just freaking in the world entertaining your ass, and his output's going to be way more successful, and he's going to be releasing freaking big ass podcasts like this. You know what? I'm going to just have to putter away 20 days. I don't know, you know, this podcast is human. And you're just going to have to live with that, I guess, you know? But yeah, I've been thinking about that. I just know that this Geo 3 thing is it's gonna create another Canadian Celiac with a Southern Ontario, Kitchener-Waterloo focused on en routes with a dash of talking about celiac disease, talking about Kitchener-Waterloo, talking about Cambridge en routes, talking about multi-decade battle with celiac disease, talking about 1996 Plymouth Breeze. I just know it's coming. I'm waiting for the day, and it will be literal human versus robot, and I will have to jump into a TV screen, and a smart TV that's playing this AI generated video of my rival. I will have to jump into a TV screen and beat and whoop that other AI version of me's ass. And I've trained at Asahi Judo on Victoria Road in Kitchener, Ontario. When I was a kid, I have a yellow belt, 4 stripes, which were 4 stripes of electrical tape, orange tape, because they didn't trust me giving me an orange belt because I was just too much of a weapon, right? And it wasn't controlled yet. So if Asahi Judo in Kitchener, Ontario is scared of me, you better be scared of me. GO3, Kitchener-Waterloo, Celiac, Focus, Plymouth Breeze, Cambridge, Ontario, en route focused influencer, that hair gel sometimes shining influencer that they're developing. I will have to whoop your Lily AI ass, and I will have to throw you in an intense way. I will have to throw you, and I'm sorry. I just have to defend the ground. I have to defend the literal groundwork I've been grinding my ass in the Canadian entertainment industry for the past couple of years, and I literally have to defend my honor. I literally have no choice. So Google, don't freaking even try, okay? Because I will have to whoop that guy's ass in an extreme way, okay? And I'm sorry that I'm talking like this, but it's just like some of those GO3 clips, they got me freaking buzzing, buddy. They got me buzzing in a massive way, in a very intense way, in a very magnificent, marvelous way. I just felt a sense of marvel when I thought about, okay, I'm gonna have to really, really go. I'm gonna have to do some serious stuff, and that's just reality, right? But what is reality, right? You look at some of these videos that are coming out, these AI generated videos, and it's like, are we, us Canadian entertainment fans, or just, fans of life itself, are we just more advanced AI generated video that we're literally living in, that someone's watching on the other side, and now we're just doing it within our own video? You gotta ask yourself that. I have been thinking about the Canadian afterlife recently, and where Canadian entertainers, and specifically Canadian Celiac Entertainers, go when they pass on to the next life. And I'm scared, and I'll tell you why. So, full disclosure, I'm just going to say it, but I have been raised Ontario Catholic. I was raised Ontario Canadian Catholic, and I went to publicly funded in Ontario Catholic school as a kid. And all was well for the first few years. But then we get into the ages of 10 to 12, and guess what shows up to my door? A giant envelope, and I open it up, and it says, "Congratulations, you are now a Canadian celiac, a Canadian Catholic celiac." And that just dropped my ass to the floor, and I said, what am I going to do, God? What am I going to do? And what did I do? I went on with life. But one thing that changed some stuff for me is, go to Mass on a Sunday, go to Mass at school sometimes, and guess what? You no longer can eat the body of Christ. I'm sorry, you cannot have that communion wafer, because that communion wafer ain't gluten-free, son. That ain't gluten-free, son. You gotta try harder, son. That ain't gluten-free, son. And it caused me a philosophical, it was an existential crisis. It's like, well, if I can't accept the body of blood, if I can't accept that, it's like, where the heck is a Canadian celiac going to go? And guess what? The Catholic Church, and we have a new guy in there. I mean, he's American, so I don't know if he's going to be looking out for Canadian Celiac Entertainers or stuff like that. But he might. But I hope to see some changes, right? I want to see, why can't the body of Christ, why can't it be a rice cracker? I'm sure Jesus ate rice. I'm sure it's possible, you know? So if I can't accept it, I hope, I don't know I don't know what's going to happen, but I just got to try to live and, just try to do the best I can. That's, you just got to try to do what you can, because you never know what's on the other side for Canadian Celiac Entertainers. You got to ask yourself, is like, do we have our own, does this carry on into the next life? Do we find ourselves, oh crap, we gotta order another pizza? Well, we gotta make our own pizza because Domino's Pizza Canada in heaven or wherever it still has a couple parts per million of gluten. So are you gonna really risk your ass on this, son? And then I have to make my own freaking crust in heaven. I think heaven's a freaking vacation. It's like, no, buddy, it's just the next level. It's just the next level. It's the next level. You got to ask yourself, are Canadians, do we have a different heaven, You got to ask yourself, is there a Canadian God? I'm sure there's, I don't know. I'm sure there's one God, but, it's monotheism, it's a new thing. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm figuring out my faith, y'all. I think we come from something. I'm just really figuring out my faith, y'all. I just want to let you know about that. I really want to let you know. But another thing I wanted to talk about is that, I discussed a few seconds ago that tried getting agents years ago. Well, and a couple times got a law of rejection, right? They weren't ready. Not a lot of agencies are taking on Canadian celiacs at this point. It's too much of a liability, right? And no one wants to talk about that, because it's like, okay, yeah, they're not going to freaking cast me in the freaking... They won't cast me in the Tim Hortons biopic, unfortunately, because that's going to cost them a freaking arm and a leg to make gluten-free Timbits. Trust me, I've tried. They're not going to cast me in that. So a lot of agencies have just been Canadian agencies have been flat out refusing, because they know a Canadian Tim Hortons biopic is coming out any day now. Any day someone's going to pitch that, it's going to get green light, and they're going to need all hands on deck. They're going to need every single Canadian actor. But the Canadian celiac actors are being locked out. This is why I have not been accepted by any agencies yet, because they're trying to lock me out because I'm a Canadian celiac entertainer, and any day a Tim Hortons biopic is coming in, they're going to need every actor in Canada to step up to the plate and play anything from Tim Horton to Tim Horton's wife to Tim Horton's daughter. And they're going to need a lot of stunt doubles, because a lot of stuff happened, and they're locking us Canadian celiac actors and entertainers out because they know we can't eat Timbits. Oh, I'm figuring this out right now live, and it's just distressing. It's just distressing in an ultimate way. So I got a message to you. Canadian agents. Take a risk for a second. Take a chance on a Canadian celiac entertainer, actor, real life person, mostly real, musician, influencer, host, card player, slot player. I like to gamble occasionally. I don't drink. I take a couple pharmaceuticals prescribed to me by my freaking doctor to keep my freaking head on my shoulders. But other than that, no, my main vice is occasionally going to a casino with my friends. Obviously we all have our own vice is conflict. I'm horrible at conflict as well. I'm working on that. I'm very fearful. I'm trying to get over that. But I'm laying it out on the line to you. So if there's any Canadian agents, I need someone to represent my ass, because I do have some things coming down the pipe where I need some representation in terms of, me and my buddies, full disclosure, we've been talking to some people about Ontario. I need a freaking, I didn't go to freaking business school. I'm not pulling my freaking father out. So my father went to Wilfrid Laurier for business, but ended up becoming a Canadian, Waterloo Regional Ontario Catholic board teacher. But do you want me to pull him out of retirement to get him to represent my ass? Because I will if I have to, and you're not going to like that, because he's going to be I could tell he's going to be very litigious on your ass, because he did 4 years of Wilfrid Laurier business in the 70s or so. And he's going to be very litigious on your ass for locking out Canadian Celiac actor, entertainer, influencer, musician, real persons. Real persons. Glad I got that out in the open. I really couldn't hold that in any longer. But if you are one listening, drop me a line, careers@benstager.com. And I got that email a couple of years ago. And God, would you not know, if you have ever tried to get an email for a business and you want to add another one, there's a cost to that. They do not make anything easy. No one has ever made anything easy. So I am stuck with careers@benstager.com, and that is my professional email. I do have a Gmail account, which I don't want to reveal here, but my professional email is careers@benstager.com, and I can do nothing about that until some stuff starts happening. Well, stuff is happening. Stuff is happening every day. Everyone is on their own journey. I'm not saying it's an easy time at all. I'm just, what I'm saying, right? I'm just bringing this back. This is the perspective of a Canadian entertainer. Now, I want to discuss this for a second. Just, you always got to figure out different ways of going about things in this world. And one thing I wanted to ask my Canadian entertainment, because, right, you could be here for me, or you could be here for Canadian entertainment news, which I've been sharing, but a number of minutes of this podcast, of course, is just showcasing the perspective of a Canadian celiac entertainer, which I think is fair. Because sometimes, I could speak broadly on things, but lots of times you're like, well, break it down for me in a way that I could relate. So I have to relate to this for you, like this. But what I was trying to say is, every day you got to try to figure out, in the way we have things set up, how to navigate yourself in the Canadian entertainment economy, or the Canadian economy altogether. We got our loonies, we got our toonies, we got our colorful money. And what I want to ask to you, Canadian entertainment podcast fans, please make your voices loud and proud. Let me know. So I know some people are here for the podcast specifically. Other people are here for the personal stories of the Canadian entertainer who is behind this podcast for most, if not all, of the episodes. I want to ask you guys, because you're always trying to figure out how to make a couple more Canadian loonies, toonies, and loonies, and I sometimes it's hard to want to ask to charge things. But I want to ask you guys, because the thing is you may have some videos I've posted before, and you may think, wow, this guy's just he's just filming and he's just hit post. But you have no idea how long I spent in CapCut edits and Premiere Pro trying to figure some out, which is fine. But there's a lot of videos that I've made that either A, hit the cutting room floor, or B, I experience immediate regret and remove it off the internet in its entirety and become paralyzed on my couch for at least 2 to 3 hours, questioning my abilities, feeling scared, feeling rather embarrassed that I even posted such a thing. It's true. It's true. I'm working on it. Not in therapy right now. I'm just doing self-therapy. I'm giving myself recommendations, but whatever. But what I want to ask you guys is, if you were able to gain access to some of these videos that have hit the cutting room floor, old takes that I haven't used, extended videos of these lovely videos that maybe you got to know me on, would you be interested in perhaps, and this sounds so pathetic asking this way, would you be interested in subscribing to a Patreon where you gained access to these things? And the thing is, for those who don't want to pay, which I totally understand, I get it. Because I wouldn't want to release these things into the public anyway, and I have not been, or I've been removing them. But if you could gain access to these exclusive videos that have hit the cutting room floor, never intended to be released to the public, would you sign up to a Patreon where you could view those? And yes, there might be some monetary sort of thing. Would you? I have to ask. That is difficult to just get out there, but I gotta ask. I unfortunately gotta think in loonies, toonies, nickels, dimes. Not the penny, sometimes we find ourselves thinking to ourselves, what would we do in a situation where there are replicants around, or there are people posing as humans and they're not humans? They're here for obviously, if there are replicants that weren't here for nefarious reasons, if replicants exist, but they're posing. But, sometimes you'll see in a movie someone's trying to figure out who's human, who's just, kind of like Mystique from X-Men, Canadian, Casa Loma, Hamilton, Burlington, Last Man, the X-Men The Last Stand, which I gotta get out there and just figure some crap out there and just talk my ass off as I do. But so one thing I was just thinking, and many will agree with me on this, is that if you want to do this test, you could say, hey, do you have any change? Yeah, I'll take a couple. Honestly, I just need a couple cents. Yeah. And then they were like, then they'll be like, oh yeah, or can I borrow a couple? Or you just ask them, so what do you think about the Canadian cent, the Canadian penny? And then they say, oh, I love it. It's my favorite thing I use. Then you'll know, okay? I grew up on movies, y'all. I grew up on movies, and that's my cross to bear. That is my Canadian entertainment cross to bear. That would be a great name for a child if I become a father one day. Because sometimes, people will name their children, Magenta or, Easter or something like that. At first it sounds weird, but then you start saying it a couple times and you're like, no, that's a name, right? So Cross to Bear is a great name. Cross to Bear Stagger. Wow, I gotta have a kid ASAP. And when I say ASAP, yes, because I'm Canadian, EHSEHP. Okay. Y'all are too real. Once again, I need to apologize with all my Canadian entertainment celiac heart that this podcast has a reduced schedule. It makes me want to cry. It makes me want to just scream at the top of my lungs, I'm sorry. But it's just life, and I'm trying to figure out so many things at once. And I'm not trying to say that's a unique thing. I think everyone's trying to figure out so many things at once. We live in a fast-paced society when we are all competing with an alternate reality via video where everyone can be mirrored in this reality and do everything. And honestly, it's getting good where it's like at a certain point, it's like, I don't know if we already threw the goggles on before we were born in the previous, but maybe we'll be throwing them on again and just shutting. And it's like, well, this looks like life, So, you know what I'm saying? But Google, tone it down a little bit. You know what? Okay, I wonder what the Google people's feelings at the Kitchener Google building, and I just wonder if they were involved in this. If you work at the Kitchener Google building, let me know. I'm just seeing how much Kitchener, Ontario was involved in this. But it's, I'm sure OpenAI is going to release something soon, and it's just scary. And maybe I'm just scared as one of my scared as one of my can be a scared person, and I'm allowed to be. I'm allowed to be a scared entertainer. Have you ever seen have you ever met an entertainer so fearful, so scared? See, that's what makes me a little unique. Lots of entertainers are fearless. I am fearful, right? But I'm open about it. I'm working on trying to become more courageous. You know what? You sometimes watch that movie, The Wizard of Oz, and you see the Cowardly Lion, like, he does not seem too cowardly when, I guess he has environmental cowardice, but not social cowardice, because he was able to roar. Well, he was able to scream at the top of his lungs at Dorothy, Tin Man, and Scarecrow and say, hey, enough is enough. You are on my property. But then then Toto freaks him out. So he's scared of other animals, but he ain't scared of humans, and he ain't scared of scarecrows, and he ain't scared of tin men. And now, how hard is it to get on a plane like Air Canada as a tin man? I have to ask that question. Because, I have a little situation I was talking about at the golf show. I am thinking about getting knighted. I've been thinking about it quite often. It could be coming any day. Well, the thing is it might not be coming any day, because I, of course, will have to get knighted in Canada. And you know what? But the thing is, I don't know how we can make this happen, because King Charles isn't allowed to bring his knighting sword on an airplane on Air Canada across the ocean so he can knight me, and he has to use his own knighting sword. So how's that fair? How's that fair that that I'm not allowed to get knighted because of a little clerical error that King Charles is not allowed to bring his freaking sword across the ocean. He's not allowed to bring that to knight me. So, and it wouldn't be right if I didn't get knighted in Southern Ontario, and I think a lot of people recognize that. It just wouldn't be right. So, and you know what the thing is he's our king too. So it's like, buddy, let's do he's our king too. We know it, right? So why is our freaking king not allowed to bring his sword on Air Canada, a plane company he is the king of? He is the be-all and end-all, and why is the king not allowed to bring a sword onto, you know what I'm saying? So he can knight me in Southern Ontario. And he wants that too. He wants that. I'm pretty sure. He's told me in a dream. He's told me in multiple dreams before. You know what? I think dreams are more real than reality sometimes. I think that could be a peek into the outside world, into the heavens, right? So we're communicating that way. I'm pretty sure in a number of dreams, yeah. And we're just waiting and seeing what happens, y'all. We are waiting and seeing what happens. That's what life's sometimes all about. But thank you very much for tuning into another lovely courageous episode of this lovely, incredible podcast. It is once every 20 days, but we want to make it more regular, and I hope the reduced schedule will end very soon. But until then, thank you so much for supporting this. I know I asked you a lot of questions, and feel free to, you could write an email to careers@benstaker.com. You could DM me. Sorry if I'm not as prompt to get back to you sometimes, but I am reading it. It's just sometimes with life events and stuff, it's like, as you know, it can be hard. So I will try to get back to you okay? Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. But I'm reading it. I'm like Santa. I'm reading everything. I'm reading everything you send. So thank you. Thank you, everybody, for supporting this Canadian entertainer's journey. The classic tale of a Canadian entertainer's journey is the classic tale of a Canadian Celiac Entertainer's journey. It's a tale as old as time. It is one of the first stories. And many people know that Beowulf, he was Canadian celiac because it takes place in England, and England has the same king in Canada. So guess what? That took place in Canada, y'all. Beowulf, the hero's journey. That is the tale of a Canadian celiac. I am sure of it. And how do we say celiac in Old English? Well, let's hope. I will find out for the next episode. Oh, and I want to just say, a super listener approached me at the Kitchener show of the Songs, Jokes, and Ideas tour, the opening show, and she was asking, and we had a deleted episode where I talked about this, but it was on the cutting room floor of our episode, The Workbench, which we were still attempting with Kyle Patton. It focuses on home advancement. It's a bit of a different, but I talked about this a little bit, but this super listener, Sarah, was asking me about to cover Eric Traplin. And Eric Traplin is a famous Canadian entertainer out of, Kitchener, Ontario, I believe. He came into my school as a child. And he has a song that I think is his original called Dig-a-Duck. And it goes, dig-a-duck, dig-a-duck, dig-a-gooey duck, dig-a-duck, dig-a-dig-a-duck, dig-a-duck-a-day. And I want to thank you, Eric Traplin, for writing that song. I want to thank you because I was so confused as a kid when I heard of Eric Clapton, and I was like, wait a second, he performed at my school, and he has a song called Dig-a-Duck. And then I was like, oh, I guess that wasn't him. That was someone who was even more, someone I can relate to from my home, Eric Traplin. And I think Eric Traplin should get an MTV Unplugged. I would love to hear I think Dig-a-Duck, I heard it acoustically, but I also think it could be an a cappella song. And I would love, and I think he really taught me, hi, my name is Joe, and I work in a button factory. I don't know if he wrote that, but he did a mighty rendition of it. But if he wrote it, wow, you are a legend. I love you, Eric Traplin. You are a king, and he's still performing to this day. I swear I'm not even kidding you, I saw a sign for him, like a big sign out near Dune. Yes, we have a place called Dune in Kitchener, Denny Villeneuve. Yeah, we have a freaking place in Kitchener. How come you left that out of the movie, Canadian? There is a neighborhood in Kitchener called Dune. You are a Canadian, and you totally left that out of the movie. You had the perfect opportunity to shoot that in Dune, the neighborhood in Kitchener, Ontario, and you fricked it up for all of us. You fricked it up for all of us, okay? I'm sorry. You fricked it up for all of us. But I still think you're great, and I haven't seen those movies because I'm boycotting them because of the fact that you did not shoot it in Kitchener at the Kitchener, Ontario has a famous neighborhood called Dune, Ontario. Well, Dune in Kitchener, you did not shoot it there, and no even shout out. Timothy Chalamet never said, oh, Dune, kind of like the neighborhood in Kitchener, Ontario. You had the opportunity and you dropped the ball on that one. Denny Villeneuve. All love at the end of the day. I would love to be in the third one. Please put me in the third one. I'm ready. And let me improvise a couple lines about the Doon neighborhood in Kitchener, Ontario. And that is how we're going to figure this out. International viewers, search up Doon in Kitchener. It's spelled Doon. It's a Kitchener spelling. I don't know. We will talk so soon, y'all. You guys are some of the realest people ever. Thank you for following this journey, and we'll talk very soon. Thank you so much for supporting my dream. Goodbye for now, and until next time, this has been the Canadian Entertainment Podcast. Goodbye.